Hello and welcome to Green Dot Daily. It's Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern, and you know exactly where to find us. The Action app, the Action YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe. It really helps. I'm Charlie DiSturco, and coming up on the show, we sift through the latest happenings in the NHL playoffs, including the Rangers holding serve at home with Tim Kalinowski, plus Nick Giffen guides us through all the left turns that we're going to see with his best bet at the Goodyear 400. But we start as we so often have done of late, and that is on the hardwood. And that begs the question, can anyone beat the Boston Celtics? The number one seed out of the East dispatched the Cleveland Cavaliers by 25 points in game one last night and are significant favorites in the futures market. They're minus 350 to win the Eastern Conference and plus 100 to win the NBA Finals over at BetMGM. That is from plus 550 on their preseason odds. Keeping that in mind, it's time for more money. They say more money is more problems. So Matt Moore, I have to ask you, who is the one that can give the Boston Celtics a run for its money?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Wolves. They went 1-1 versus the Celtics in the regular season in Boston, where Boston was nearly unbeatable. They went to overtime with them. You've got that absolutely ferocious, ravenous defense that they've been beating the snot out of Denver with. If you're gonna play the Celtics, they don't run a lot of pick and roll. They want to play on the perimeter. They want to play one-on-one quite a bit and then pass to shooters. The Wolves have the best rotations and point of attack defense in the NBA, so that matches up really well with them. They've got the ability to pressure the rim on offense when they've got these two bigs inside. So they're able to go inside and really punish the Celtics, who honestly, if you kind of dig under the radar a little bit, have some problems with rim protection. Kristaps Porzingis wants to play a little bit further out, which means that if you just bully them, you can do some damage versus him and Al Horford. I think the Wolves are a great matchup versus the Celtics in a potential finals.
Yeah, and Jay, I'll kick it to you next. You're in agreement here that the Timberwolves are the team that give the Celtics the biggest run for the money. I don't know if it's much of a surprise right now, given what we've seen them do to Denver thus far.
Yeah, I do think that the Wolves are the best team built to beat the Celtics, but I want to start off saying reiterate, I don't think anyone is beating the Celtics this year. I know that the Wolves are a really great defensive team, but I think the Celtics this is their year. I think they get the job done. But the Wolves, they do have the number one defense in the league that holds a lot of weight, especially in the playoffs as well. Especially the way that they're letting them play as well. It's kind of crazy because some other teams are kind of trying to play that same type of defense and they don't really and they get the foul call, they get the calls on them or whatever. But the Wolves do have the size and the depth that can kind of that can match up well with the Celtics, but I still don't think they're going to get it done when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. You look at the first two games, I think a lot of us were kind of shocked to see the physicality that the Timberwolves had on defense, really shutting down the Nuggets. Now, Jamal Murray is banged up, KCP not himself too. Matt, I want to ask you just, a month ago we had this conversation. Most likely we're all saying, it's a fair fight between Denver and Boston. And now neither of you guys even mentioned the Nuggets. Is this clock struck 12 for them?
Just put me in chains, Charlie. I'm a prisoner of the moment. Like, look, they're down 0-2. They're down 0-2, have not been competitive. And their entire attitude after game two for Denver was just like, I just want to go home. Please stop beating me up. Please stop hurting me. They were just absolutely out of it. They slunk out of the arena instead of talking to the media, except for Nikola Jokic, Justin Holiday, and a few others. It's rough right now for Denver. Look, if Denver turns the series around and they pull off this comeback, then I'm right back on. Like, yes, I do think Denver can beat the Celtics. But you ask me who can beat the Celtics, and I don't think Denver can because I don't think Denver's getting there.
Yeah, I mean, you look, no Rudy Gobert in game two. You figured at least they'd have some success, maybe controlling the glass, finding room inside, and they just were completely out physicaled, and that's with Rudy Gobert on the sidelines there. But let's take a turn to the Eastern Conference side of things. There is one game tonight, so I do want to get a best bet out of both of you. Jay, I'll kick it to you first. You are targeting one of the bench players out of Indy that has really come on strong in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I love the fact that they're booing him as well. He has an even more bigger chip on his shoulder here as well. I'll take Obi Toppin over 15.5 PRA. He went for 12 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists in game one as well. Obviously, he played for the Knicks as well. So, like I mentioned, he's getting booed every single time out there. So he has an extra chip on his shoulder, and he's the X factor big man. He's really like the only big man that's really coming off the bench for the Pacers right now, and I like it. He can shoot threes, he can rebound the basketball, he can get some assists. So I like for him to go over 15.5 PRA for the second straight game versus the New York Knicks.
Yeah, looking to go over 15.5 PRA for the second straight game, and he's been over in 5 of his last 6. It's pretty impressive to see the Indiana Pacers, as good as they are in their starting lineup. TJ McConnell and Obi Toppin have been just such forces off the bench, which is something I don't know if I saw coming personally. But Matt, you have a bet on the side in this game, and you're maybe siding with the home team here.
I am, but Charlie, I'm disappointed in you. You weren't watching all those Pacers games this year to see how good TJ McConnell was, night in and night out, not doing the league pass homework, Charlie. I'm disappointed. Yeah, I'm gonna lay the 4.5 of the Knicks here. Look, 6 seeds after round 1, after game 1. So game 1's like hey, you can sneak in and surprise them, right? Like you're riding the momentum, you're the underdog, kind of sneak in and surprise. After that game, 4-15 straight up, 7-12 against the spread or 6 seeds. It's kind of an interesting spot where they're not so undervalued like 7 or 8 seeds, but they're not as good as the 5 seeds. So they're in a really rough spot in these second round series. The line moved 1.5 points off of game 1 based off of how game 1 went, with the Knicks not winning because of officiating, but did not win because of the officiating. Plus Mitchell Robinson's injury. That's too much of a line move here. The Knicks are going to be able to settle down. They'll adapt to how the Pacers are playing. The Knicks got great looks in game 1. Went back and watched that game. They got great looks. They're going to be able to adapt to the Pacers on defense better than the Pacers are going to be able to adapt to New York defensively. I'm expecting some big changes from Rick Carlisle in game 3, but not in this one. So I'll go ahead and I'll ride the home team. Knicks minus 4.5 tonight in the Garden.
Listen, if you ever see me watching regular season Indiana Pacers basketball, it's a cry for help. Call 911.
For shame, Charlie.
Hey, listen, I have better things to do on a Tuesday night than watch the Hornets and the Pacers tip off. But Matt Moore, J Money, thanks so much. Best of luck on your plays tonight, and we'll be chatting soon.
Thanks, Charlie.
Anytime, guys.
Unless you live under the rock, you have seen Jalen Brunson's impressive performances of late. After the first 2 games against the 76ers, the man has been on fire, just tying Michael Jordan for 4 consecutive 40-point games. And right now, in the last 15 years, since 2009, that is, Brunson is second in the most points per game category. That's second behind Russell Westbrook. Donovan Mitchell, Luka Doncic, and LeBron James round out the top 5, all were 35-plus points per game. And keeping that in mind, I welcome in Jim Turvey. And Jim, I have to ask, right? I look at this number for tonight's game. The Knicks, Pacers. Knicks are slight favorites. Jalen Brunson's point prop is at 37.5. I don't remember ever seeing a number this large. It feels like week 17 of the NFL season when Cooper Kupp's going for a record, or Justin Jefferson, and you get this tax on it. How do I not bet the under here?
I mean, it's absolutely bonkers. That's the exact look. You have to look at it. At the same time, I would be absolutely petrified to bet it. You're going against the Pacers team that wants to funnel everything into the exact area of the court where he does the most damage. Now, I think because in game 1, he did a lot of damage and he's proven himself time and time again. I do lean towards an under, but man, you got to have some brass ones to be betting that under today. Cause I'm not playing it, even though I see it as a potentially great spot to go under.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the last games, 43 in game 1, but again, then you break it down. He had 20 points in the fourth quarter, 14 free throws. You'd expect some of the free throws to come back.
Some regression, right?
And he has been avoiding it. I don't understand. And I know that a different way that you can do it, and a way that you are, not fading Jalen Brunson necessarily, but looking to maybe, attack other players in the Knicks organization on the prop side of things for tonight's game. You're looking at Josh Hart and a prop on his side that might go, you're not fading Brunson, but you're looking somewhere else.
Yeah, it's kind of a usage prop to a degree. So I'm looking at Josh Hart over 2.5 turnovers. If you watch that first game, if you watch any Knicks game this postseason, you know that their offense has not been good in the half court whatsoever. They really have stalled out. It really has come down to just Brunson having to create, stuff out of nowhere. But against the Pacers, what I really noticed was Hart was grabbing the rebound, going in transition. There's a great stat going around our Slack today talking about Josh Hart and how he's actually among the leaders in transition assists this postseason. Here's the thing though, Josh Hart is not a point guard. As good as Josh Hart is, he is not a point guard. So the more he has the ball in his hands, live ball situations flying down the court, he had 5 turnovers in game 1. He's only cleared this 2.5 number actually twice in the postseason, but he's been on 2 turnovers almost every other game. I think overall, if this is an offense that the Knicks are going to try to rely on, Josh Hart in the open court, him having to make those decisions, him being on the fly, I think that his turnovers over here is a really good look to feed off of that game script.
Right. And then even if you think about it, like if the Pacers try and double Jalen Brunson, that's going to put the ball more in Josh Hart's hands. He's not a catch and shoot 3-point guy, so he's going to maybe drive in, kick it out, lead some more opportunities for these turnovers. This is a great look to fade the Knicks without fading Jalen Brunson, but there is a guy on the Knicks that you have circled, given Mitchell Robinson is out for tonight's game, and it seems like Tibbs just absolutely will run his guys into the ground with 35 to 40 minutes. Doesn't matter if they're big men chugging away, and that's Isaiah Hartenstein. You like his over. Tell me why.
Yeah, this one I gave out on buckets yesterday at 8.5. It's moved to 9.5, which is why I kind of bumped it down to my secondary bet here. I still like to look at the over, in part because, you said it well there. He doesn't mind playing anyone just basically an unlimited amount of minutes, right? And Hartenstein's been getting about low 30s. He got 35 minutes last game because Mitchell Robinson really wasn't a great matchup for the Pacers bigs anyways. Now that Mitchell Robinson's just out, I could easily see, it could go one of two ways. Actually, part of the reason I loved this so much, I thought it was going to be Mitchell Robinson as the backup and skewing towards Hartenstein. Now with it being Precious Achiuwa, he actually does match up a little bit better with these Pacers bigs, but he's also not a very good player. And I could see Tibbs losing patience with him in a game and just being like, you know what, we're banishing you. All my other players are running 44 minutes a night. We've kept you mostly fresh to this point. And really loading up on his mid. So I still like the over at 9.5 rebounds. It became a little bit more of a lean because Josh Hart has been, absolutely crushing the glass. And I think there is something to them wanting him to get the ball off the rebound and go. So I think, they're telling Hartenstein, hey, if you can box out and let Hart grab that board. But if we look at Hartenstein's regular season numbers and we translate it to about 36 minutes, he flies over this. So I think against the Pacers front court that isn't really the best rebounding front court in general, there's a lot of factors that lead me towards Hartenstein reaching double digits for rebounds tonight.
I know this might be my Daniel Gafford play of yesterday to today, betting Hartenstein over rebounds, points, double-double, all of it, because this is a great matchup, and he is going to be on the floor for 30-plus minutes. And you mentioned, Precious Achiuwa. He played just 4 minutes in that game one. Obviously, Mitchell Robinson did play a bit there, but only appeared in 2 games in the Philly series as well. So it's not like he's commanding a large minutes load. And we saw Hartenstein with his points or minutes. It was high in game one against the Pacers. So the last one, you have one more pick before I let you go. And I'm going to put you on the shot clock here. You got 24 seconds. I'm going to start the clock.
Okay.
You tell me your last prop. Go.
Okay, it's mostly that I'm stubborn. I have Dante DiVincenzo under 3.5 threes. I played it in game one. He hit 5. What can you do? But he only took 9. And the cap is basically the Pacers don't help off very often. They love to stay at 3-point shooters. DiVincenzo is getting a lot of them in transition. If he gets 9 again, I like him to potentially go under 3.5. How'd I do? Did I beat the buzzer?
21 seconds.
Bang.
So that's a win. We beat the buzzer. We beat it by 3 seconds. You're the third one to go 3 for 3 on this under here. And maybe that's a sign, right? We've had 3 guys on before. We're perfect on the under. I do like this look too. And listen, as a guy who had DiVincenzo's over 3s in 2 straight games prior to him starting to go nuclear, I'm rooting for him to struggle right now because I didn't get to reap the benefits of it. But Jim Turvey, your 3 picks, Hartenstein over 9.5 rebounds, DiVincenzo under 3.5 threes, and Josh Hart over 2.5 turnovers. Best of luck today. Enjoy the game, and we'll see if Brunson can drop another 40 bomb.
Yeah, see you, Charlie. Thanks for having me.
And over to the pucks, and here's a look at where the NHL playoff bracket stands as of Wednesday. The Rangers hold serve at home. They lead the Hurricanes 2-0 and are plus 410 to win the Stanley Cup. Best side out of the Eastern Conference. The West, though, a different story. The Oilers and Avalanche, both plus 410. It seems like it might be turning into a 2-game race after Colorado took a 1-0 lead over Dallas on the road last night. Edmonton opens up game 1 in Vancouver tonight. And keeping that in mind, here to break down the top 3 teams in this Stanley Cup playoffs race. Tim Kalinowski. Tim, Rangers hold serve at home. They're obviously grouped in with that Avalanche and Oilers squad. Who do you think in particular holds the edge over the three?
Oh, wow. You really put me on the spot to start here. I thought I was going to be able to take a cop out. First off, I think you look at that and there's not a ton of value in the futures board right now. I knew we were able to, take Dallas when they fell 2 games love against Vegas rather, but I don't think that same value is here with Carolina. In terms of these top 3, they all have one thing in common, right? They're either leading a series, and then in the case of Edmonton, they're big favorites in their series. So I look at these 3 teams. The Rangers, they have a flawless third phase of the game, meaning their special teams. They've been absolutely dynamite. They're able to score in the power play, continuing that trend from the regular season. And Carolina has been held for 0 for 10 on their power plays. You look at a game that goes to double overtime. Carolina has 2 opportunities in extra time, and they can't convert. So that's kind of been the difference there. Edmonton, I call them the dictators. They dictate how the game is played, their speed, their top stars, they're lethal on the power play themselves. They make you have to play their game. And then Colorado, I call them relentlessly suffocating. They tilt the ice, and it's virtually impossible to get out of your own end, to weather that storm. And obviously they have a ton of stars themselves. So I would say my favorite of the bunch, a long way of getting here, would probably be Colorado. Nick Martin brought up a good point on Line Change yesterday, saying that Colorado has done this to win a Stanley Cup. They won a Stanley Cup with Kempfer in net, who's, by no means like a top 5 goalie in the league. And, Georgiev has been fine, but look, this is a team that has shown they can do it with just, standard goaltending at best.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. First off, I want to say, you calling the Oilers the dictators, I was expecting a total opposite comparison than saying that they dictate the actual game. I thought you were saying it's like, they're in charge, they say what goes. But I do want to ask real quick, the Rangers obviously have that flawless special teams right now, but it almost feels like they might be in this position because they're up 2-0 rather than, the Oilers or the Avalanche, who it just feels like their team in general is just better than New York.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this, like, you can make a lot of the way that the Rangers just have great goaltending and then they dominate you on the power play when they get their opportunities. But I used to have an old coach in high school who said that 5-on-5 is largely an S show, a crapshoot. And it all comes down to, can you score on special teams? And if you look at if you just filtered regularly for power play percentage, the Stanley Cup playoffs, the 16 teams that made it, the teams that are moving on and are, have stranglehold leads on their series, like the Rangers 2-0, they have shockingly a good power play percentage. And the teams that got sent home packing, abysmal power plays. You think of the LA Kings, you think of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I don't know if that can, continue. They did it in the regular season, and, obviously they're doing it in the playoffs. So as long as they keep getting their power plays, look, you got to give them a fair shot.
Yeah, somewhere in Canada, Nick Martin has the Arthur Fist meme over the Rangers holding a 2-game lead over the Hurricanes. But let's move to tonight's games. You mentioned, the excellent power play, kill, and unit in general. The Boston Bruins obviously holding the Maple Leafs to such a significant margin in this first series. How are you handicapping this game in game 2 against the Panthers?
Yeah, I like the over 5.5. I was on it in game 1, and I'm going to go right back to it. These past 2 years, when these teams have played in the playoffs, the over is now 6-2. And I think a lot of that has to do with Florida can beat you a number of different ways, but when they get going, they also open up, opportunities on the back end as well. When they get aggressive, they get their D involved in, the 5-man forward check, and they left Ekblad. Unfortunately, he was kind of the punching bag in game 1. And I expected a big push from Florida here. Look, the Bruins, a lot was noted about how short rest was actually an advantage going into game 1. And I think you saw that with Boston. However, I think now the hangover hits a little bit. It was almost like that Sunday screwdriver to, shampoo effect. You keep rolling. Then it really hits you on Monday. And then when you get to this age, it hits you on Tuesday as well. So I expect a big push from Florida. They went a combined 0 for 5 on the power play, these two teams in game one. I don't expect that to continue. Someone scoring on the power play. Both have been good. Both were good in round one. So I think this goes over the 5.5 number.
Right. And you mentioned, you were on the over in game one. Obviously, rust versus rest helped that, but also, the empty netters. I feel like every game we're getting an empty netter or two, which obviously plays into the help of the over. Maybe we'll see the Hurricanes be able to even the series, but let's move on to the other game tonight. Vancouver, Edmonton. We talked about Edmonton and how heavy, or I guess in that top three of the favorites of the Stanley Cup. They're road favorites tonight in Vancouver. You like the Oilers to keep on rolling.
Yeah, I like the Oilers in game one here. And I actually think the series is going to go longer than people think. I think a lot of people are already writing off Edmonton, but the reason I'm pretty much giving Vancouver a puncher's chance in the series is I think that it's that Vancouver can run with Edmonton. I think that they can play a number of different styles, but I think that's going to be hard to do right off the jump in game one. Vancouver just shut down a Nashville team that is not overly threatening offensively. And, the numbers were outstanding for how Vancouver was able to shut them down. I don't think they're going to find the same success in doing that against Edmonton. I don't know. I just don't see it working right off the bat. I think they can get into it. Edmonton, look, their power play, that's kind of been the theme of this segment here. It's on fire, 45%. Vancouver's is 15.4%. So a big margin there, big advantage for Edmonton. If they get their power plays, they're likely to put them in the net. Like I said, I don't think Vancouver can totally limit the high danger chances that Edmonton is capable of early in this series. I'm interested to see how it settles in, but getting Edmonton here at -135 seems like a really good team at a short price. And also too, Vancouver's goaltending situation. I know they've been fine, but I still have question marks.
Yeah, and just a little nugget to help you, push you over the edge if you're still 50-50 on back in a road team. We talked about this earlier in the week and 2 weeks ago too. Road teams, a near even split. So it's not like the home teams have such an advantage. And to take it a step further, road teams that are -200 to +100 in that range, which Edmonton falls on, 11-6 for 65% on the money line at 13% ROI. So I like this play tonight. I have the Oilers to win the Stanley Cup, so hopefully that comes to fruition as well. But Tim Kalinowski, thank you so much. Enjoy the action tonight.
Charlie, outstanding job. Thank you.
Of course, we can't let you go without some NASCAR. The Goodyear 400 out at Darlington Raceway in South Carolina is on Sunday, and that is just a reminder for the Running Hot podcast dropping tomorrow as Nick Giffen and Steve Young break down their favorite bets from placement finishes to outrights. Be sure to listen in. So keeping that in mind, Nick Giffen, I made him save one that he was going to give out on the podcast to bring me here on Green Dot Daily. So Nick, I'll let you go. One of your best bets for the Goodyear 400.
Yeah, first of all, Darlington is an awesome racetrack, so make sure you watch. We're coming off Kansas Speedway, which literally was the closest finish in NASCAR history this past weekend, ever. So NASCAR is on fire right now, and Darlington is just another amazing track. So for Darlington, I'm going to go with Michael McDowell to have a top 10 finish. You can get that at 6-1. If we look at McDowell at Darlington, he has 2 top 10 finishes in 4 starts in the next gen era, right? This new car that they have had for the last 2 years, 2 races each year. So 2 top 10s in 4 starts. That's already 6-1's already great odds if you just consider that. He also has 2 top 10 finishes in 8 non-drafting ovals this year, kind of our traditional ovals. So that's already a 25% rate there in terms of finishing inside the top 10. So when we look at those numbers at Darlington and then just at all ovals in general, it already seems like the trends are there for 6-1 to just be too long. And if we look of those 8 races, there's 4 that have been on faster intermediate tracks this year: Las Vegas, Texas, Dover, and Kansas. Michael McDowell's run an average of 52.3% of laps inside the top 15. So more than half the laps on average per race, he has run inside the top 15. If you take a weighted average, right, so weighing by the number of laps he has run per race, because some races have more laps than others, it's still 47.1% of the laps he's run inside the top 15. And that's really important because to have a 14.3% chance of finishing inside the top 10 at Darlington, which of course is that 6-1 implied odds numbers, 14.3%. You need to run around 42% of your laps inside the top 15. And obviously Michael McDowell has been at 47.1, 52.3 in that neighborhood this year at Darlington or similar Darlington type ovals. So my model definitely has value on this. I have around plus 515 as fair value. So I think you can bet this down to around plus 525 and still have, a little bit of wiggle room for some safety there. So just a little sprinkle, nothing crazy, maybe like a quarter, a third of a unit type play on this one. But Michael McDowell, top 10 finish for the Goodyear 400.
I am a little upset though, Nick. Last two times, mind you, you've won both bets you've come on to Green Dot Daily with for me. But I'm a little hungry. I was ready for you to give me a little Alfredo or some other pasta as a top 10 finish. But I do want to talk a little bit more about Michael McDowell. Obviously, beyond just this race in general, he is leaving Front Row Motorsports at the end of the season. He's going to Spire Motorsports in 2025. Just quick hitting analysis on this one.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. Michael McDowell is kind of the face of Front Row Motorsports now. He won the Daytona 500 with the team. He, won the Brickyard road course race last year. So for him to leave, pretty interesting news. And I think this just has to do with the fact that Stewart-Haas Racing, which isn't even mentioned in this, is potentially going to merge with Front Row Motorsports. And so there's just going to be too many drivers once that merger happens. Right now, there's 6 drivers for only 4 seats between those two teams. So McDowell going over to Spire, he's going to go into the number 71 car. That means Zane Smith, who was in the number 71 car for Spire, probably is going to Trackhouse Racing, which he actually is under contract with, but he's kind of on loan to Spire this year. So then the question is, what happens at Trackhouse Racing? Do they get a third charter so that they make Zane Smith a teammate to Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain, or does Daniel Suarez get bumped out at Trackhouse? So the silly season, as we call it in motorsports, has already started at the beginning of the month of May. It's going to be a wild, silly season for a wild NASCAR season that we've already had.
Yeah, I mean, you keep naming all these motorsports companies. Soon enough, I'm going to be like the guy from Always Sunny, trying to picture which one is going where and where they're all going to be next year. But we do know Michael McDowell is heading to Spire Motorsports. But before that, he is racing for Front Row this weekend at Darlington to try and get a top 10. That's Nick Giffen's best bet. Nick Giffen, thank you so much. Enjoy the races, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, I'll be back on Friday with more motorsports. So maybe we'll have an Alfredo Xfinity Series pick for you there.
I'm going to be hungry for it.
I like it.
And just a reminder, any picks we give out here on the show, like the one you just heard from Nick Giffen, you can easily reference by following Green Dot Daily at the handle Green Dot Daily in the Action app. We keep track so you don't have to. And that's going to be all for Green Dot Daily. Thank you so much for hanging with me on this fine Wednesday. I'm Charlie DiSturco. We'll be back here tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern on the Action app and YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe. A programming reminder, coming up in about an hour and a half, Action Island at 5 p.m. Knicks Pacers Game 2. Watch as the guys and Maria Marino craft the same game parlay for that playoff game. Have a great one.